Right now, across Canada, Conservatives are looking for people to run in the different ridings. And well, today I have one man who is doing that in my local area. Marcus Wong, thank you so much for joining me today. So, tell me how this process works. The Conservatives, I would assume we're not going into an election anytime soon. We have an election possibly coming up in 2025, if not sometime sooner. But we need to have candidates. So you're running for the candidacy for the Sea to Sky region. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, by the way, Clyde, for having me on today. It's such a great honor to be in your YouTube channel. I've been a longtime fan and follower, so it's kind
Oh,
of cool to be here.
awesome.
But yeah, absolutely. So I'm seeking the nomination for my riding, which is West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
And how does this process work? Like, is it just like any other, like, because we all went through the Pierre Poilievre trying to get the nomination to become the leader. Is it a similar thing, but just on local levels?
It is. So essentially what happens is that party members will get an opportunity to select who will represent the party at the next election in 2025. And so that person will represent the Conservative Party for this riding. And obviously, if they are successful and getting elected, they will become the member of parliament for this riding.
So what brings you to the Conservative Party and say want to run for that? Like this riding is there's a liberal in office right now. There's been liberals in office for a while. It's also an NDP area provincially. Do you see the tides changing? Do you see Canada looking to, or at least in this region, to change our prospect on where we should be looking for our political leaders?
Absolutely. I'm the only one actually running who grew up in this riding, and I still live here. And so I've got deep roots. My family is here, parents, cousins, and uncle, all that sort of stuff. And I went to school here, elementary school and high school. And so I'm so passionate about our communities and this riding, and I want to see it become better. I want to see it become prosperous. And so I want to go to Ottawa and fight for the people in my riding and be able to address the issues, like, for example, infrastructure and water on the Sunshine Coast. Ensuring that, we're maximizing our natural resources. But also, at the end of the day, I've been talking to a lot of people, and the big overarching theme is about affordability and the cost of living and essentially economic freedom. There's a lot of taxes and they're very high, and people are having trouble putting food on the table, and that's really concerning. Right. So one of the big things that I want to go to Ottawa and fight for is putting money back into your pocket. Your tax dollars should be going back into your pocket so that you can make decisions for yourself and for your family.
So it seems in Canada we're having a bit of an ideological battle at the moment. We've got the left party, the Liberals, and the Lefter party, who's in a coalition with them at the moment. But what after 8 years of Trudeau, we're now not going into economic downturn. This has turned into crisis. We're going into economic crisis, housing crisis, inflation crisis. Now they're talking about skimpflation and shrinkflation, all these different terms to come up with just a way of explaining that the lives of Canadians are getting worse. And a lot of people are turning to leadership saying it's because of the implementation of the policies of these parties. What is Marcus Wong as a Conservative MP for Sea to Sky Country going to bring to Ottawa to change this ideological bend?
Yeah, well, we have to get over this idea that we can just endlessly spend money as if money grows on trees, right? And so, we need to be really conscious of the financial resources we have, which are very, very finite. And so I'm a big believer that for every dollar that the Canadian government spends, there should be the same reduction elsewhere. And so that we're not spending more than we have, which we can't afford. And that's, a lot of what we've been seeing over the last 5-10 years with the current government, and it's not viable in the long term. And so certainly that needs to change. We really need to bring a more, shall we say, business focus to the way government is run, really making sure that we're being accountable for our money, that there's transparency, and that we're actually maximizing our return on investment, which is our tax dollars.
Well, a lot of our tax dollars are going towards, payola programs, whether it's, there was the CERB benefit, the emergency relief benefit. There was also the one that went out to businesses, and a lot of businesses are suffering from this now. I know a few businesses personally that have run into a situation where they qualified for it. They qualified again and they qualified again. And then later down the road, they told these people, oh, it turns out you didn't qualify it for it. Now you have to pay back the entire amount. We all knew that they were going to be paying it back. What does a conservative government want to do with these? I understand you want to cut the taxes so that we don't have to pay it in the first place. But what about these kinds of social programs that have kind of put people in a horrible situation? What is the Conservative Party moving towards along those ones? Because these are small businesses that are really suffering because of it.
Yeah, well, you know what? Being conservative, a big part of being part of the Conservative Party is believing in a smaller government. And what that really means is that there's less regulation, there's less red tape, so that Canadians are able to live their lives without government directing, you should be doing this is what you should believe, this is what you should read, what you not should read. And it's all about giving freedom back to the people and for them to prosper. And that, certainly goes to small businesses and, making sure that they have the ability to become economic viable businesses and are able to prosper, right? Because at the end of the day, this is about people. It's about enabling people to put food on the table, to care for their families, and have a better future. My parents came from Hong Kong in 1967, and I was born here in Canada. I was born in Vancouver, and they were seeking a better life, as do many, people who come to Canada. And so they need to, this country needs to be able to give these people that Canadian dream that has been lost. We see it a lot in the cost of housing. People in my sort of age bracket, I'm 42, by the way, millennials, they can no longer even consider, never mind dream of owning a home. And that's problematic. And so, a lot of this stuff that I'm hearing from folks in the community is like they want the freedom back for that Canadian dream, to be able to put food on the table, to actually care for their kids, to one day own a home and, put down roots.
Well, you and I actually have quite a lot in common. We're about the same age. We're both first-generation Canadians. My parents are both immigrants as well, from Scotland, from the United States, seeking a better life. This is the whole concept of Canada, and this is why many, many, many people came here. Now, when it comes to the housing crisis, it's a two-ended thing. There's the shortage of houses, but then there's also a growing number of Canadians coming from different countries. Now, a lot of people would argue that there's too many people coming from other countries. Not that we should shut their doors. Of course, we want to bring lots of new Canadians to come here. What's a conservative perspective looking at, especially with the housing crisis, with so many people coming in, whether it's students or refugees, any of this stuff?
Well, I've always been a big believer in increased communication between, not just, citizens and the community, but also between levels of government. And so I know this is sort of quite, I'm trying to simplify it, but it's, there needs to be more dialogue between the different levels of government, especially when it comes to things like housing and immigration levels, right? And so, if we're going to bring in X number of people, we need to think ahead and be like, okay, where are we going to house them? How is that going to work? How is that implementation going to work? And so it feels quite disjointed right now, and that's quite frustrating when I talk to new Canadians, right? They're like, well, the housing is so expensive. I can't find a house to rent. I can't find a house to buy. And, my money only goes so far. So it's about restoring powerful paychecks and really restoring people's hope in the future. And so that's a crucial part of what I think we need to do as a country to move forward. And it's really about, left hand talking to the right hand and working together and really embracing the diversity that we have, because that's always been the strength of Canada. And we're losing sight of that.
Now, I've noticed the Liberals and the NDP, they like to go towards some tropes of demonizing certain small demographics of the population in order to use them as political fodder for whatever that is that they're looking out for. Currently in British Columbia, on a provincial level, they're looking at the Airbnb people who own pieces of property and going after them. Now, I'm not saying that this is a tough one. It's been a really tough one for me because on the one hand, they're doing a terrible disservice to Canadians by renting them out as Airbnb, or at least to Canadian families that are looking for these properties in such a shortage of housing. But also, then there's the other side of it where the government's coming in and saying you can't do this with your property. Something that was legal yesterday is now something that's highly punishable. What do the Conservatives look at this? Property rights are a huge concern in Canada to a lot of conservative-minded people, whether it's what you could do with your property, or if you protest, if your bank accounts will be frozen, or if with new laws coming in, wealth. I'm forgetting what they even call it, but it's prove to the government that you own this, money laundering sort of laws. This is what they're saying. They're trying to go after this proof of wealth sort of things, where the ownership is on the person to prove that they're innocent when questioned. Property rights are a huge thing. What are the Conservatives bringing to the table to protect people's property?
Yeah, well, the party's been talking a lot about, for example, one idea is tying infrastructure funding to housing goals, right? Pierre's talked a lot about giving money to, certain municipalities if you're able to sort of create density in a certain area and create transit so that you're able to create the housing in a timely fashion. That's probably a really good start. And so we need to be thinking outside of the box and thinking of ways that we can collaborate with the different levels of government and with the communities to create the housing we need, for example, right? But at the end of the day, Conservatives, like I said, are about freeing people up to live their lives, to make the best decisions for themselves, and having a trust that instead of trying to penalize people and trying to control their lives is actually quite the opposite, creating incentives for them to make the right decisions, and cutting that red tape, which I think is absolutely crucial if we're going to get back to a place. The Canada that I remember growing up, it was a place where we were proud to be Canadian. There was incredible hope for the future, and you could sort of dream one day that, hey, you know what, I can own that house one day and move in and have a family. And like I said, that's no longer the case. I'm 42. I'm forced to live with family because I'm not crazy rich, and so. I hear a lot of that from a lot of my peers and from younger Canadians, which is also troubling because they're sort of looking at me and be like, hey, you're 42 and they're 25. What does that mean when they're older, right? And so certainly very problematic, and we need to turn that around. And you know what? I fully realize that it's not going to be like a 1 year. The Conservatives will get elected and overnight it's all going to change. No, it's actually going to take some time, but that's why it's so much more crucial that we start early and win a majority next time around to start doing this hard work.
Well, the longer we wait, the more it's going to hurt when we do transition to a good economy. Marcus Wong, thank you so much. We've got the website up here. Where can people find you on social media or elsewhere?
Yeah, so please visit my website, marcuswong.ca. I'm on social media as well. It's linked on the website on TikTok, Twitter, or now X, I guess it's called, Facebook, Instagram, Marcus CS Wong, CS, my middle initials. And yeah, so please, like they say, please follow, like, and comment, and reach out if you have any questions. I'd be happy to meet folks and answer your questions. If you have anything about who I am, what I stand for, yeah, certainly welcome that.
Amazing. I'll make sure all the links are in the description down below. And thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Clyde.